For decades, the protocols dictating human performance have been built on a statistical blind spot. The overwhelming majority of historical physiological data has been derived exclusively from male test subjects. When active women apply these male-optimized fitness trends to their own routines, the results rarely mirror the data. Instead of improving fitness, these inherited protocols frequently disrupt the female endocrine system. To achieve actual physical optimization, we have to stop force-fitting female physiology into a male framework. We need to discard these inherited rules and build a completely unique biological protocol from first principles. This new protocol must be built on 3 distinct foundational pillars that govern the female body: divergent cortisol clearance rates, heavily compressed anabolic recovery windows, and the shifting baseline of infradian rhythms. Ignoring these 3 physiological realities means training against your own biology, creating a conflict between the mechanical work you're doing and the internal environment required to support it. The breakdown begins with how we fuel, or choose not to fuel, the body in the morning. Take intermittent fasting, a heavily male-validated trend designed to trigger cellular cleanup and fat loss. The primary goal of fasting is to induce autophagy, the body's mechanism for clearing out damaged cells. But active women can trigger this exact process purely through the mechanical stress of exercise, rendering severe 14-hour fasts completely unnecessary. Looking at this chart of morning cortisol, the female baseline starts much higher than the male. During fasted exercise, a male experiences a temporary spike that quickly normalizes. But for females, fasted training stacks stresses. Instead of recovering, the female cortisol line plateaus dangerously high. This prolonged cortisol elevation forces the female body into a survival state. In this metabolic environment, the system prioritizes fat accumulation, lipogenesis, rather than burning fat for fuel. To signal endocrine safety and manually lower that cortisol baseline, active women must consume food 30 to 60 minutes after waking up. The specific nutritional requirement depends on the physical stimulus. For morning strength training, introducing exactly 15 grams of protein alongside minimal carbohydrates provides the necessary amino acids without overloading digestion. If the morning protocol requires cardiovascular training, the body needs a different substrate. Approximately 30 grams of carbohydrates before the session ensures blood sugar remains stable under aerobic demand. For female physiology, forcing the body through fasted morning cardio is an active endocrine disruptor that opposes the system's natural stress clearance mechanisms. Once the workout concludes, the metabolic environment immediately shifts. Intense physical exercise severely depletes the body's circulating energy and muscular glycogen stores. If these energy stores remain unreplenished, female physiology violently shifts into a low-energy stress state, triggering a cascade of secondary metabolic alarms. To secure the missing energy it needs to function, the female body defaults to a catabolic state. It will systematically break down newly trained lean muscle mass rather than mobilizing stored body fat. This chart maps the anabolic window. The male recovery timeline extends steadily, remaining active for up to 3 hours post-workout. But for women, that exact same biological timeline is radically compressed. The female recovery window effectively slams shut in just 60 minutes. This requires a strict, immediate nutritional intervention. Women must consume a minimum of 35 grams of high-quality exogenous protein strictly within that 60-minute window to halt muscle breakdown. The secondary intervention targets muscular glycogen. Women require 0.3 grams of carbohydrates per kilogram of body weight, translating to roughly 18 grams for a 60-kilogram individual, consumed within 2 hours of training. Zooming out from the post-workout window, total daily macronutrient targets must scale appropriately. Active females require a high continuous baseline of 1.1 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight every single day. This exact macronutrient demand explains why severe caloric deficits or ketogenic diets aggressively fail women. Depriving the female body of these baseline calories triggers rapid hormone dysregulation and intense hunger pangs much faster than in men. For women, muscle preservation relies on this precise timing. Missing that 60-minute window means the body continues to pull energy from lean tissue, potentially undoing the growth the workout was meant to stimulate. With the nutritional timing established, we have to audit the physical stimulus itself to ensure it triggers physiological adaptation without overloading the stress system. The required foundation of this protocol demands a minimum of 3 dedicated resistance or weight training sessions per week to build and maintain lean tissue. Cardiovascular programming requires careful modulation. Prolonged steady-state cardio forces the body to pump out excessive stress hormones, keeping cortisol elevated for hours after the session ends. The optimized alternative for aerobic fitness is sprint interval training, or SIT. Implementing this 1 to 2 times a week, ideally following resistance training, creates the necessary cardiovascular demand without the systemic drain. A precise SIT protocol looks like this: 3 to 5 rounds of maximum output for 20 to 30 seconds, followed by a low-intensity recovery. The repeating intensity peaks stimulate the cardiovascular system, while recovery phases keep stress in check, maintaining a stable cortisol line. An optimized female microcycle trades long, draining endurance sessions for short, intense, hormonally protective mechanical loads. To lock in the adaptations from those mechanical loads, the protocol requires systemic recovery.
Let's analyze popular thermal therapies, starting with the widely adopted 10 degrees Celsius, or 50 degree Fahrenheit, ice bath. Cold plunges trigger an intense systemic shock. The female body registers the temperature drop as a severe environmental threat, instantly initiating a survival response. The superior, biologically aligned alternative for female recovery is actually on the opposite end of the thermometer: deliberate heat exposure through moderate sauna use. Heat therapy effectively clears accumulated stress hormones from the bloodstream and actively forces the body into a state of deep parasympathetic nervous system recovery. That parasympathetic downregulation directly enhances sleep architecture. This is critical because women inherently require a higher volume of sleep and operate on an earlier circadian rhythm than men. There is a critical vulnerability built into this timeline. Sleep hygiene must be flawless in the days immediately prior to menstruation, a phase where female sleep architecture becomes lighter and more prone to disruption. We secure this systemic recovery with a mandatory targeted supplementation stack: creatine to sustain muscular output and cognitive health, iron to offset the biological cost of menstrual loss, and vitamin D to support continuous hormone synthesis. True systemic recovery for the female athlete is driven by parasympathetic heat exposure and sleep optimization, not central nervous system shocks. Every variable we've discussed operates within a final, overarching physiological framework, the infradian rhythm, or the monthly menstrual cycle. The flaw in standard fitness programming is its reliance on linear training models. These models assume a static, unchanging physiological baseline week over week, a baseline that active women simply do not possess. This 28-day wheel naps the protocol. The first half, the follicular phase, features higher energy, ideal for heavy resistance and SIT sessions. The luteal phase brings hormonal shifts that decrease strength, requiring reduced intensity, increased calories, and prioritized recovery. This approach replaces rigid, linear models with a training structure that scales alongside the monthly fluctuations of the female endocrine system. True physiological optimization demands discarding linear male models entirely and synchronizing every input with the female endocrine operating system.